This is horrible. Yeah, this is no good. The season finale, whatever. Welcome to What the Fleck. Robert, Alonso, Ben, Person to Person, Season 7, Episode 14.
Is it sadder when a show ends in a way that suggests the characters' lives going on and you don't get to see that? Or an ending that is about finality, like Breaking Bad? It's like Breaking Bad had to end in a final way.
One of the great things about 6 Feet Under was that they just took you to everybody's death. Like, no questions unanswered pretty much.
They got to do that because it was a show about
death. No, exactly. And this one, I mean, before anybody asked, I thought this ending was great. I did too. It was spot on and well done.
9.5 and exactly what you sort of expect him to do.
You get me to laugh like that at the end, I'm happy. I don't need a show. It's so funny. It's like I've cried at episodes of Mad Men. I've been shocked at episodes of Mad Men. I've had incredible, wonderful, insights into things. And the fact that this episode didn't necessarily have to give me any of those in a major way. I got a couple of great insights, including the last one. I'm happy with the show being just another really good episode.
Yeah. I haven't read anything. I usually do read stuff, but
I've been trying to avoid it.
I wanted to avoid it because I didn't want to know whether there was any. Is there any controversy about this?
I've seen some general grousing on Facebook that they didn't think it was a satisfying enough ending, and there was a headline of a Daily Beast piece about how it was a betrayal of Peggy. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's not a betrayal
of Peggy for her to fall in love and not be alone
with the only person with whom she has had a consistently intimate emotional relationship.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it ends with him kissing her on the forehead while she does the work.
It's a reversal of an image we have seen beginning of time where it's the guy at the desk
the typewriter
and the woman coming behind him. I mean, that right there, that's a little piece of directing that tells you everything.
Yes.
Yeah, it was terrific and it was incredible and it was, I don't know if you guys started thinking I don't think it was until this season that I started thinking about them. Like, why don't they just go out?
Well, ever since Stan grew that beard, I'm like, Peggy's right there, But that's just me, maybe. I don't know.
You and beards.
Yeah, he rocks it real well. That guy. That Jay Ferguson.
And the smile on his face when he ran over to the office at the end. I mean, it was
adorable.
Priceless.
Yeah, so I mean, they gave everybody a schmaltzy TV moment that was authentic to the characters,
and earned.
And sometimes, it was earned. That's what I mean. It was just genuine. That
it's the flip side to the idea that, like actually, I'm surprised it's not considered more controversial that she didn't go with Joan. I mean, when Joan and she have that talk about starting a business together, that is really at Mad Men at its most. Like, this is where the women have come at this point.
I did have a jolt of the idea of Olsen Harris,
right? But you know what?
Or Harris Olsen.
But what Peggy?
I think that would be O.
Oh,
or Ho actually, because it was Harris.
That's what I thought. It has to be Olsen Harris.
Yeah, totally.
But what Peggy wants is she likes her job and she wants to probably move up in her job.
Yeah.
And by 1980,
she's going to be creative director.
Exactly.
When Pete says the word 1980, that was somehow shocking. 1980. These people are going to be here in 1980. They're going to see the people from the Americans. They might,
crossover.
Right.
They're going to vote for Reagan.
Yeah. They're definitely going to vote for Reagan. Yeah. Probably not Peggy, but the rest
maybe
of them.
Maybe not, but yeah.
Man, it was but there's so maybe controversy about satisfaction part of it, but there's no doubt about what happens to Don.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, sure there's doubt.
Don is going to own the me decade the way he owned the 60s. But I thought the whole show was about him becoming irrelevant, but I realized that it's about him having to break all the way down so that he can once again, as his expertise, bring himself back together again, reinvent himself, and the idea that even when he's in a fucking ashram doing meditation, that he has the aha ad moment. It's like, Don, you'll be fine.
But see, we don't know. I mean, that's not made explicit. You can think that, and that's great, but you can also think the other thing, which is basically he's now reinvented himself again. Whether he goes back to McCann Erickson, we know they did that Coke ad.
Yeah.
But I like to think of it as basically you could have added the words, a narration at the end after that said, "My name is Don Draper. I'm an ad man. I sell things mostly to myself." And I think basically that ending was, I sell myself these things that I've been selling everybody for years, which is like the idea that you can live a better life.
I get all that, but I don't think there's any question that in the show mean, the ad again was a different guy, but it was McCann Erickson. The ad came out in 1971.
71,
it's
yeah.
November of 1970.
And
There's a ding as if he has
Have
a.
you seen the picture online of the girl behind the desk
Yes,
at the
that's it.
ashram with the pigtails and the woman in the ad?
A bunch of women in the ad. A bunch of women in the ad with those pigtails. So I think the show is fairly clearly saying he went back. He went back and they took him and they made the ad. Right?
And Peggy probably came up with the tagline because that was her goal, was to come up with a great tagline.
Right, it's the real thing. That's like he came back. He wanted to work on Coke. Peggy mentioned Coke. He did, and we know he's got to come back because while he might be being kind to Betty for giving her what she wants while she's alive, once she dies, then he gets to make whatever deal he wants with his kids, and maybe he's just going to take an apartment and continue to see them on weekends.
Sure,
that we don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be the most logical. I think the most that he's able to do.
The smile and the little bell ringing is certainly an indication that he does come up with that ad.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
Means he went back.
Yeah, and I love the refrigerator speech that the guy gives in the group therapy about for me it reminded me of, and I'm going to get real hoity-toity here. I think it was reminding of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, the T.S. Eliot poem about the pair of ragged claws, all that stuff. But then somebody, Bart in the booth pointed out that it parallels the conversation that he has with the hot Jewish department store lady in the pilot, where she tells him that basically no one knows you and no one will love you.
With Rachel, I don't remember that conversation.
Yeah.
When he takes her at the dinner to apologize,
Right.
But doesn't he say like love is something I can sell? I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, in a lot of ways, I think it kind of comes around to itself, and I like the fact that Don does not get the sort of magical, redemption or overhaul. He just becomes more Don.
He's more Don, and really, it's almost like a portrait of an artist. I mean, the way artists totally confound us, they frustrate us. They're awful people. Often they have to go off and experience things before they have their great, brilliant ideas. And I think that's part of it too. I mean, it's.
But holy shit, the scene where he says goodbye to Betty on the phone is one of the most emotionally devastating moments of this entire
when he says, Jesus,
series.
Bertie.
And that silence between the two of them. Killing me.
Yeah, so, I think that really from that moment that they've emphasized in promos to that moment at the end, I guess, of season 6 where he's got the hat on. I brought a Don Draper hat. I left it on my desk. The moment that in season 6 where at the end when he takes Sally to where he grew up.
Yeah.
Right, and the boys.
He really hasn't done anything horrific since then. Like, he slept with some stewardesses, but it didn't matter. He gave money away to people who he thought deserved it. He was kind to Megan. The marriage didn't work out, but that really, by that point, wasn't so much on him. And in fact, there was an indication that he was totally prepared to move to LA to at least give it a fighting chance. And he was better with his kids. He parented Sally this episode. He's calling the kids regularly. I get it. It's 1970 dadding, calling once a week, but engaging them.
I also love the person that Sally is becoming.
Totally, yeah.
That conversation that she has with him about, take me seriously. Here's what the kids need. Here's what the boys need for stability. You need to back off. It's like, oh man, you're like a person. Good for you, Sally Draper.
Mostly, I've liked how this season the women in Don's life have felt like they get to say to him how they feel, and they get to tell him, I don't need you. So this just kind of continued this episode with Betty saying, it's part of me going that you aren't around.
That's right.
And then Stephanie basically bailing on him without even saying goodbye. So
and I also really liked Joan ending it with Richard, there's his name, because it was never about. Yeah, Bruce Greenwood, exactly.
Bruce Greenwood, right.
It was never about, she's this driven queer woman or he's a dick. It was like, no, he's retired. He wants to have this certain kind of leisurely life at this point, and he was willing to accommodate the kid, but to also accommodate her still working, it's like, that's not what I want. And she wants something else also, and so they both sort of
yeah, right. It was
go their own way, and it wasn't. So that was. I liked how mature that was, and how it wasn't. Nobody was being villainized there. It was great.
That's right. He understands it. He said, "I'd been there." He's like, "You don't just do one or two things. You build it. You're constantly working."
And Pete Campbell, who began this show, it's funny. The people who get so angry at Betty, Brett Ehrlich. No, in general, like people online who get so mad about Betty or Megan or Megan's mother or whatever, and give Pete fucking Campbell a pass. That guy has been such a shitheel for this entire run.
Totally.
I know, but
with few exceptions. But boy, did he come through at the end.
Yeah.
That last scene with Peggy was like, all right, you're a mensch,
Well,
Campbell.
sometimes, in the case of Pete, clearly what happened was he needed to just not be in New York. He needed to be like he always wanted to be the big fish in a small pond.
Sure.
And Wichita is going to give him that ability, and he's probably going to
not be around Trudy's dad.
Right. I mean,
They all gained, Pete particularly, that gained self-awareness. Like he was aware of the impact he had on other people. There's still so many people who at my age are totally unaware of, when they come into a room, the impact that they have on that room, usually negative, But Pete seemed to figure it out. Don even to figured it out. There was real growth of a lot of characters. Oddly enough, not really Betty, who still, even at the end, I mean, you feel bad for her and you ache for her, but when she's giving that talk to Don about what she wants for the kids, that I don't want this to be a big change. Like, I get it. It's 1970, but to me, I was like, no, but it is a big deal, and it's going to be a big deal. You can't stop it from being a big deal by trying to keep it as normal as possible for as long as possible.
But as she said to Sally in the previous episode, I watched my mother die. I'm not going to put you through that.
But she is going to put her through it.
Well,
I mean, there's no you can't. You're dying.
Yes, I mean,
right,
what you put herself on the ice floe is the other option. But she's at least not going to drag it out and make it longer.
No, I got that. That's good.
Look,
but
that's the most grim image of the whole episode was the last shot of
her smoking,
Sally and
blanked out reading the paper and Sally.
and her textbooks to the side, not really touched. It's kind of like
I didn't notice that either.
It's I mean, that's a grim image, but at least it is self-awareness. I actually don't think Don has reached that self-awareness. I think we just got from the end that hilarious last shot that he's just going to be a cipher who always needs advertising.
What's wrong with being an ad man if you're an ad man? I mean,
sure, if you're a duck, I mean, but I think.
But he's in a cycle. He's just going to always be in that cycle.
Absolutely. But what I like about that is the idea that he's in this place. It's all about self-awareness and growth and blah blah blah. And all he gets out of it is, I can turn this into a commercial.
Right, but
no matter how touchy-feely the 70s get, it's going to be something that he can sell to somebody else. But again, he's going to run the ad campaign for fucking I'm okay, you're okay.
It's a mirror
when that comes out in 1975 or whatever.
It mirrors the first episode of the whole series, that he's this ad man who also has this bohemian girlfriend.
I admire all that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I love that is the purest form of this character.
Great growth. There was something different. There were no heel moments. There was mostly parenting, active parenting. I mean, that talk at the bus with Sally.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that was.
I'm not saying that he has
never would have happened.
I'm not saying he's a terrible person, and obviously he is.
Peggy too,
and Stephanie to some extent as well. I'm not saying that he's gone nowhere, but I'm just saying that ultimately, like, the ad man part of Don is the part that never goes away.
Sure.
Right.
And he may be more comfortable in his skin. He may, he is literally, once he gives the car away to that guy, I mean, he's shed it all. All of his belongings are gone.
He's got a suitcase, right?
He's got the pennies bag, the J.C. Penney bag with his remaining belongings in it. And so he is born anew, but he is born anew as Don Draper 2.0, basically.
Yeah. But also, he says in that conversation with Peggy, I'm going to, no, I didn't do anything. I screwed everything up.
I took another man's name and did nothing with it.
I did nothing with it, and she says that's not true. And then you can debate whether it's the real thing is doing something with it.
Sure.
I would say it is.
Is he the real thing for that matter?
Right.
Exactly. I think. That's why I think it's ultimately a joke wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a whatever. It's like that ending. I think it's basically saying, okay, if you buy that is him creating the ad, it's also the show saying he will always have this cycle of, I have to get away. I don't know who I am. Oh, I know. I have a great ad.
Right.
No, I know totally who I am. And whatever it is he comes up with is exactly going to be in tune with what America wants and needs at that moment.
And he's never going to risk anything like the way Joan's risking something, like the way, this ending had I just feel like the ending of the show really was like, this show was so much about how work relates to life and how life relates to work, that really the ending of the show was when the couple episodes ago when the company dissolved and we've been getting an extended epilogue, basically, these last few episodes. That's what it's felt like to me. That's why I didn't mind that this wasn't like the greatest episode ever. And I just think part of that is like that Don is like still like rolling along, Yeah.
I don't know. It felt incredibly satisfying to me. Like I wanted him to go back. I think you Like it's okay to go back. That doesn't strike me as
Fish got to swim, birds got to fly.
Right. And
Don will be the first person to trash sugary drinks 30 years from now. 30 years from then, when soft drinks become are maligned. I mean, that's just the way. I mean, Lucky goes from Lucky Strikes Great to smoking is awful. I mean, it's like he's done everything because he has to roll with it for him to feel alive.
He's a chameleon. He's a phoenix.
Yeah. But very sad to say goodbye.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm going to miss these cats.
Really great show and great and some really they did some nice things. We got really nice send-offs for Peggy, for Roger, and for Joan. Even though Joan's gonna find some guy. She's all right.
She's going to own that town.
Yeah, she's gonna. So
there's no stopping her.
Yeah, not a great send-off for Betty. Betty didn't work out for Betty.
Oh, poor Betty.
Poor Betty. And it's not going to work out for Pete, but it's nice that they're giving it a try. But they are done inside.
Pete will find a way to have an affair with somebody.
He's going to sleep with other people, and she's going to not care as much, and she'll spend his money, and they'll be fine.
Right, she'll go to community college.
There you go.
All right, thank you. That's a little community reference. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Tune back in. We'll have True Detective. We still do Game of Thrones.
Hannibal, Masters of Sex coming up.
Masters of Sex. Good
Sense8
stuff.
on Netflix, so come back.
Thanks, everybody.